Please enter your account code.
Hello, it's Virginia.
Hello, Virginia. It's Lynn Chamberlain.
Hi, Lynn. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm a little bit early. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just pulling into a quiet parking spot here.
Okie
So
dokie.
let me just pull over and then we can get started here.
Okie doke. What's the weather like down there?
Oh, it's still hot.
Really?
Yeah, pretty hot. still.
I'm up on the coast of North Carolina, and we've got a cold front coming in. But boy, this past week was very, very warm.
Yeah, it's been a long summer, so hopefully it'll cool down. We really can't complain because
No
so
hurricanes
nice here in the winter. Yeah,
Oh,
right.
Yeah. Okay, now tell me, it's like tomato. Do locally, do they pronounce it Clematis or Clematis?
Clematis Street.
Oh, see, good. That's the way I was raised. But gosh, then on like the Victory Garden and that sort of thing, I hear people say Clematis, and it's like, I don't know what they're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okie dokie. So I just got off the phone with Keyshawn, and boy, it was it was a riot because when Tamika's Peoples didn't set him up to be totally in the know. So it must have been his cell phone number. And he's like, well, who is this and who wants to know what is this about? And he's like, okay, well, it's me. And then when I told him it was a 12-minute segment, I'm sure he almost fell off his chair. He's never done anything that long before.
Wow.
So I did a good amount of research and was able to keep him going the whole time. So he probably hung up saying, holy moly. But it was a really good segment, and we kind of set it up near the end. I mentioned your tasting notes. So I'll introduce you and what you're doing there, and then the connection with him as well. So
okay.
We're recording a 12-minute segment also, and when we get near the end of the segment, you'll hear music coming up under our voices. When you hear the music, that means we have about 20 seconds to finish what we're saying.
Okay.
And if you would stay on the line with me just another moment so that I can record a liner in your voice that I'll use then your voice to introduce the segment.
Wonderful. That sounds fine.
Okay, cool. Bring down the mic. We'll get started here. Master Sommelier Virginia Philip was chosen to be the first official wine critic for the premier launch of X1X19 wine by Keyshawn Johnson. This is his first super premium label. And if you just finished hearing us with the previous segment, boy, he has a lot more planned if everything goes as he's dearly hoping for with this. And I would imagine that this is going to sell out fairly quickly, actually, certainly before the holiday season. Joining us today for the third course on Wine and Dine is Virginia Philip, who is going to talk to us about what she does in West Palm Beach, Florida, with the Virginia Philip Wine Shop and Academy. But let me give you a little heads up here in that in 2002, Virginia Philip became the 11th woman in the world to earn the extraordinary accreditation of Master Sommelier. And today there are only 25 women out of 204 professionals in the world. And she kind of began a long time, her interest in wine began early on in her life. And she was studying the subject actually in college. And she graduated magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Science in Hotel and Restaurant Management from Johnson and Wales University. And before she opened up Virginia Philip Wine Shop and Academy, she was in charge of beverage at the Breakers Palm Beach Resort. And Virginia, I thank you so very much for joining us today on Wine and Dine. Were you born and raised in Florida?
No, I'm actually from Connecticut. I lived in Connecticut for the good 20 years of my life, and then moved, after college, I moved out to Colorado.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. And you worked at a very well-known wine shop in Colorado, right? In Aspen?
I did. I worked in a wine shop part-time, so that was my first retail experience, and then was also working for a hotel called the Little Nell.
Oh, yes.
It's quite famous, yes.
Whoa.
So I got a great training and background at a pretty early portion of my career on fine dining and fine wine, which was fantastic.
Is your family in the restaurant industry? I mean, how did I think it's so unusual for someone to, unless they're coming from that background, to be seeking out and as early as you were, way ahead of the curve, a Bachelor of Science in Hotel Restaurant Management.
Well, I mean, my father was Italian, so during holidays or Sunday meals, we would get small sips of wine mixed with water. So it wasn't unusual for us to, I wouldn't say partake of wine on a frequent basis, but it was something that was sort of what we did on major holidays. And I had an aunt who owned her own restaurant, and I thought that was pretty darn fascinating. So that was the launch into the hotel restaurant management career. And, you spend time in the kitchen, you spend time in a hotel.
Yeah.
You make your decision which direction you're going to go, which for me was always restaurants. And by taking a class in wine, that became the final piece of the puzzle for me, which was to try and focus as much as I could on the wine portion.
Wine affords the opportunity to travel, meet some really interesting people, and from a lot of interdisciplinary, from different backgrounds.
Absolutely. I just can't imagine doing anything else. I think that what we do is so highly coveted by so many people that we at times take it for granted. But I do have to pinch myself sometimes and go, wow, this is an amazing career that I have and how lucky I am.
And that I just can't get over the fact that you were, that you were doing, now it's almost fashionable to do that. But you were doing this in 89, and that was, ahead of so many other people. So talk to us, how the heck does this X1X wine smell and taste? And when I was talking to Keyshawn Johnson, and he the first time he ever experienced the wine, he said, was with a chicken salad up at the vineyard. And I asked him, just based on your tasting notes, has he ever had it with anything chocolate? And he said, no. Wow, that's an interesting idea. And so, I said, okay, here you've got your Halloween all planned, some chocolate ganache in your wine. But it occurred to me, because it was from Eastern Oregon, that it's lighter on the palate and a little brighter acidity than maybe if he made a choice from Napa or Sonoma.
I think that's exactly right. The XIX wine, I'll be honest with you, when I was the first approached to do the tasting notes, I thought, wow, Cabernet Sauvignon coming from Oregon, but they're more well known for Pinot Noir. But of course, coming from the Echo Vineyard, which straddles the Columbia Valley, that's a fantastic, phenomenal growing area for Cabernet Sauvignon. And as you said, the acidity structure stays the same. Tannins are a bit more approachable in a youthful state, but capable of aging, 3 to 5 to 7, 8, 10 years long term, which is wonderful. So when I do tasting notes, I look to see, can a wine be drunk by itself? Which most times Cabernet Sauvignon would be a tough challenge to do that. And while I think this food would certainly be more well suited to food, it's not going to kill you to have a glass on its own, which is important.
Or with a chocolate ganache.
Or with a chocolate ganache.
Oh my gosh. So do you think that this is a wine that people could, in fact, lay down for a couple of years?
I think so. I mean, I think that I'm not completely 100% sure about the vineyard age, but I think that the vines are, creeping up on 10 years, 8 to 10 years, and has the potential certainly to go at least a good 5 to 7 years for sure. I
tried to get as much information as I could, and there actually is a website for the, and he has a link now also to this Echo West Vineyard, but they don't give any information about the vine age. So you're going to be one of the exclusive retailers for this wine. There are not a lot of people listed, so you have some in your store right now?
We have some in the shop right now. We do have it up on the shelf next to Stagland and Chapelet and Schaefer. So it's sandwiched in between Opus and Continuum. So it's in a great spot. And I think the price point's fairly attractive at, the $95 price point.
So that's what you're selling it at is $95?
Yes.
Oh, that's a good price, because I've seen it higher than that on the internet.
That's the pre-release price that I was told to try and shoot for, and so we're always certainly willing to go. Especially with the new release, it's important that as many people as possible get to try it. And while the allocation or the total case production is quite small, we definitely want people to be able to taste it.
Have you heard any feedback from any of your clients?
Most of it has been very favorable. I think a lot of them have not drunk it quite yet. They've purchased it, but they're waiting.
I kind of got the impression from Keyshawn that in his mind's eye, what he's thinking is that this is going to be, if you buy a bottle of this X1X Cabernet from Keyshawn Johnson, you're basically joining a Keyshawn Johnson club.
The fan club.
Yeah.
Well, they probably should attach a small chocolate football with it, maybe. But
oh wow, that's a good one.
I know that is a good idea, isn't it? I think having sports figures make wine is not it's not unusual. It's certainly not very common. But if you look at Drew Bledsoe's wine from Doubleback and it's a lot of golf professionals who are making their own wine. But I think what Keyshawn has done is he's definitely entering into a virgin territory of Oregon that has yet to be discovered at how great those grapes can be.
Whoa. It's definitely setting himself apart from anybody else because of the location of the where he chose. What is this R.C. Mills like?
R.C. is a really great man. I had an opportunity to meet him just last month for the first time. He's extremely well educated and well versed in the food and wine industry just because of his background as a chef and his schooling and his travels. And he and I both said the same thing. We're not going to get behind anything that we don't like ourselves and 100% believe in. So we have the same philosophical thought on Keyshawn's wine, which is we're very proud of it. We think it's a great representation of what Oregon's going to be doing in the near future.
You at Virginia Philip Wine Shop and Academy, you basically, you teach people. You have classes, you have visiting winemakers, etc., put in appearances. What kind of wine tastings do you have lined up for second half of October, November?
Well, let me just state that I'm still actively currently working for the Breakers as their Master Sommelier, so I'm still heavily involved in their wine and beverage program. So I have the best of both worlds right now, which means Keyshawn's wine is going to be on our wine list, but it's also going to be in the retail store, so we're going to be able to approach it from two different and separate directions.
Okay.
But and we're hoping to get him to come to town and possibly do a wine dinner at the Breakers, and then, of course, do a wine tasting at the shop.
Okay.
So what some of the things that we have coming up at the shop is we have an organic and biodynamic tasting with some Italian wines on the 9th. We have Michael Torino, who's the Southeastern Regional Manager from Ridge Vineyards, coming to do a lineup of the Ridge wines, which we know are fantastic. And then we have Pierre Casanov from Veuve Clicquot, who's a winemaker, coming to do a base wine seminar for Yellow Label, and then we'll be tasting Rosé and Le Gondom 1998. So what we try to do at the shop is to bring these great winemakers and people in the industry to present and showcase their wines without people from South Florida having to travel to New York or Chicago or L.A. to do these things.
Wow. Oh my gosh! So and so I didn't realize you were still working at the Breakers. So in your tasting notes, you said that let's say that your tableside somebody says, "Oh my gosh, I'm a football fan. I want to order this wine," and you say, "Oh gosh, you should have it with steak au poivre, rosemary crusted lamb chops, or barbecue rub meats." Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Those are great pairings for that dish.
Wow.
Including flank steak or lamb or any of those items are going to be fantastic.
Virginia Philip, Master Sommelier, and the official taster for this Keyshawn Johnson wine. I really thank you for joining us today on Wine and Dine. This has been a huge pleasure. And we will have links up for you to learn more. And I thank you for listening to Wine and Dine. Okay, before you turn on the ignition and roll on your way, something along the lines of, hello, my name is Virginia Philip. I'm a Master Sommelier. I'm the head sommelier at the Breakers Resort in West Palm Beach, and I also am the proprietor of Virginia Philip Wine Shop and Academy, and you can learn more online at something like that. And if you want to mention the Keyshawn Johnson wine, that's fine also.
Okay, great.
I'm going to cut my mic. You can start whenever you like.
Hi there. My name's Virginia Philip, and I'm the Master Sommelier and Wine Director for the Breakers in Palm Beach, Florida. And I also own my own retail store called the Virginia Philip Wine Shop and Academy in West Palm Beach, Florida. And we are in big support of Keyshawn Johnson's wine, XIX. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is that good enough? Or?
That was great. That was great. That was perfect.
Okay,
and
perfect.
This will be right after his segment with next week's show, so it should be up broadcasting by Tuesday or Wednesday next week.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Hey, have a delicious day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Okay.